And we are live. Welcome back to another episode of the Mecca of Banter podcast. Cheers, boys. Cheers.
Cheers.
We gotta get
week
it
in
like
the
a little
books.
soundboard. Like
You're like,
someone
I
has to
kind
play
of want
the
one.
whistle
Like,
and do it.
or I just
Yeah.
have someone in the background hyping me up.
I can just pull up the rap air horn on the
Absolutely.
phone,
Before we all check in, did want to mention we do have a special guest today.
Yes, sir.
One of our very own from the Mecca of Banter group message, Jake Wynd. Let's get a round of applause.
Jake, welcome brother. Welcome.
Happy to
You
be
can
here.
see by his gorgeous background, he is a Chelsea fan as well. Finally got someone who bleeds blue with me on the pod. Unluckily, the timing of you to join with us sitting in 10th, but hey, love to have you.
Yeah, it's a real down days for us, but hopefully going to get better here soon, getting guys back.
The only thing I like about you right now is that mustache. Everything
thanks,
else.
buddy.
The Wine brothers
for
know
you.
how to
I'm with
grow
that.
some mustaches.
Yeah, yeah. You know, we made a comment, when Elliot was on the podcast about how Winks just got a little bit more brave in his like takes. Nick already makes the most wild
Yeah.
takes on the podcast, so like I can't imagine him being more brave. But Jake, happy to have you, brother. Really happy to
Yeah.
have you here.
I'm really
Jake,
excited
where
to hear
can-
what Nick has to say.
Yeah, same.
Jake, where can we find you on Twitter?
As of right now, no Twitter for me, but you can
Ooh,
find me
okay.
on Instagram at windup23.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
Sheesh.
football.
And for those who still don't have our voices memorized yet, I'm Winks. You can find me on Twitter at LCW21.
What's up? It's Hen at Henry Wynd. That's me.
What's up, fellas? Great to see you all. Tough weekend. Happy to be here.
Woo!
Find me on Twitter at CDubs10. We got some spin zones for you, though. We got some spin zones coming up my sleeve.
Oh, let's see 'em.
So many. Yeah. Who here at Young Yid? Spurs Twitter's a really dark place, but 3 points today makes everything a lot better. So we move.
I feel like we could add that to our soundboard. It's like Twitter is a bad place for Spurs fans.
It's
Dark days.
It's a dark area, man. Everything's bad all the time. It's insane.
Absolutely. Yeah, before we get into Prem, though, we have a good episode today. I'm going to talk about a little recap of the weekend games with Jake being on. Going to do a little deep dive into Chelsea, talk about some transfers and stuff like that. But before we dive into the Prem and talk about some of those games, did want to mention the Bundesliga is back and wanted to talk about Dortmund a little in their weekend clash that they had. And our young boy scoring a worldie. Worldie.
Much needed. Absolutely much needed.
Yeah, so for those of you that don't watch the Bundesliga, they had the longest break of any league in the world. They were of the top five, rather. And Dortmund came back today or yesterday and played Augsburg, who is not a top table team for what it's worth. Like Dortmund is sitting in sixth, and Augsburg is not. So they should have handily won the game. But something that's fascinating about Dortmund this year, they've always scored goals. Like historically, I think they came onto like my radar in like 2012, 2013 when Lewandowski and Götze and Royce were all there. They just play brilliant counterattacking football. That's where Jurgen Klopp really made his name as a coach. So they've always scored. They've always had an incredible attack. This year, more than any other year I remember watching them, they just absolutely leak goals. Realistically, if you were a betting man, not saying that any of us are, but if you were a betting man, you could bet the over in just about any game that Dortmund plays in, and it would hit. Their goal differential is 5 throughout 16 games, and that is
That's hilarious.
scoring 29 goals and letting in 24 in 16 games. And mind you, they have like a world-class back four. All four of them start for their national teams, and they still leak goals. But the real highlight of the games were two people, and that is Jude Bellingham, who's behind me, and Gio Reyna. Gio Reyna coming off of multiple weeks of his name honestly getting dragged through the mud with Greg
Wild
Berhalter.
stories.
Crazy shit.
Wild
Crazy
stories.
shit. For those of you that have been listening all season 2, you have heard our thoughts on the Berhalter, him not playing Gio through the World Cup. It's been asinine. And then for him to come on the field, not start, but come onto the field and score the game winner in the manner in which he did, then run to the corner and put his fingers in his ears to silence the haters. I mean, absolutely incredible.
Poetic.
We love to
Can't
see it.
imagine that was just happenstance that happened. That was very much shots fired. But then you got to talk about the guy behind me, Jude Bellingham. Gets the game going with a goal, and then he bags another assist and wears the armband at the end of the game because he's that guy. The kid's everywhere. We talked about Gavi and Pedri last podcast on who would win a Ballon d'Or, and Dobes, you made the comment that Jude Bellingham would win one before him. He is the fucking truth. Every
Very
time I
good.
watch the guy, he is so good. I've been on this train for years, and I don't know if I could be more on board with the Jude Bellingham train than I am now. So crazy game.
What
from
your De
Dortmund.
Young train just like doesn't exist anymore?
No, dude, I'm
you're
still
just-
high on Frankie.
Yeah.
I'm
Very
high
much,
on
very
Frankie.
much, very much choo-chooing along there.
But
So
a
you're
crazy
just like
game.
an all
I mean,
young CDMs.
yeah, dude, you gotta love him. But the Bundesliga is super fun right now. Top is 35 points, and then you go all the way down to 6, and it's at 28 points. So everything's to play for in the back half of the season. It's going to be an exciting one.
I was gonna say Dortmund at 6. When you said that, I was like, wow, like that must be a
Yeah.
crazy league right now. And their
7
title
points.
race is probably that's insane.
7 points with their goal differential, though. If you think about it from that stance, like they let up 10 less goals, they're probably in first or battling for first.
Yeah, Bayern, who's in first, who also has had like a pretty shaky season, even though they're in first. Their goal differential is 36, so they're
That's
they're,
gross. That's
they're a little
gross.
different. Yeah.
All right, battling for second.
Dude, I need to see another angle on Gio Reyna's goal because the only angle I've seen was the one just overhead, like from the telecam. I need something behind it.
Yeah,
I don't
like that
understand if there was
Pogba
some-
angle.
Yes.
I don't know
Yeah.
if there
Like
was some
feet of
outside
curl.
foot stuff. Like he there was a missile and in the dip on it. I have to think it came into out. Like I don't know. It was just a missile. I need to see another angle. That's probably one of the issues with the Bundesliga is the coverage to a certain degree, but maybe that's just us being Americans. Who knows? We get NFL pylon cams. We can't see Gio Reyna's screamer in the 80th from another angle. Whatever.
My favorite thing about the goal is if you watch it back, like literally maybe half a second after he kicked it, Bellingham already put his hands in the air because he knew it was going in.
Yeah,
Like
Gio
had-
starts selling early too. He,
yeah,
pulls
it
a
had
step.
so much distance to travel, and he was already celebrating. Jude was celebrating. It was awesome. It was great.
Great.
I love their relationship too. Him and
Yeah.
Jude both like posted each other on Instagram. Jude instantly, probably knowing that Gio needs that for a confidence boost,
Sure.
instantly posting him on Instagram. I mean, I think everybody in here knows just how good Gio is. And like for him to like, obviously he's not back starting, but for him to come off the bench and do that instantly and like their first Bundesliga game back is just the biggest like shut the fuck up to every single person who's ever questioning his ability.
He's still 18. The kid's
Yeah.
still
18 years old.
Kid.
And like
18
he
years
didn't.
old.
I don't need him to be starting at Dortmund every day, but like, dude, that it's we don't have to doubt him at
I was
all.
gonna say,
Like,
and his parents' drama right now with everything going on, like the kid's going through it and he's bagging goals like that. Like, come on, like
that's so
I think
American.
Dortmund knows what they have in him too. Like
Yeah.
instantly,
yeah.
even after that stuff came out, Dortmund came out behind him. Dortmund
They-
knows what type of player they have.
Yeah.
Gio knows what type of player he is. The moment Greg leaves, like I think he slides right back into the national team scene, like
I think so
instantly.
too. Yeah, and I want to give a shout out real quick. Winks and I were at Amsterdam to watch the United Arsenal game. We got there early, and Borussia STL is like a massive
Shout out.
Dortmund fan
Shout
group,
out.
and they were showing out at Amsterdam. We walked into a group probably of 30 supporters,
Oh,
all
wow.
decked out in yellow and black. It was super cool. So we got some stickers and we got some handouts. So if anyone from Amsterdam or Borussia STL is listening, shout out to you all.
Dude, they had a
big
cake.
shouts.
They had like a cake there and like
Yeah.
the whole 9 flags put up everywhere, banners. I was like, dude,
It was awesome.
yeah, it was
I've
cool to
been
see.
to that stadium over in Germany, and that's one of the coolest stadiums I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's on my bucket list. I'd love to go to a game
Yeah.
that would be part of the yellow wall. It'd be so cool.
great shout. Also, great transition into the Prem weekend that we had. You guys did go to Amsterdam for that incredible game. I will admit it was fun to watch. The final score of the Arsenal United game, 3-2. A little different than what our boy Elliot predicted earlier last week, but hey, still an Arsenal win. What are your guys' takes on that result, boys?
And let's go. Let's let Winks go. Winks.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, well,
Do your
before we
thing.
talk about
Flowers, man.
no, you're good. Before we talk about the game, I was listening to an Arsenal Vision like post match recap by them, and one of the guys talked about acknowledging the state of the league right now, and I think that Dobe said it in the Mecca, but like the Prem is better when Arsenal and United are both good, and what a match that was. But the league can change, like we've seen this year. The league can change so much year to year. Seeing Liverpool and Chelsea in a constant title race with City in the past, previous years, and Arsenal playing the way that they are right now after watching them dreadfully the last several years. I feel like it's so important to not look too far ahead and kind of enjoy it while you can. And ironically enough, I was watching post-match interviews, and Zinchenko said that before the game in the locker room, he was saying to the guys, like, guys, when everyone's going to retire, we're going to regret that we didn't enjoy this enough. And so I think that's, whether that's as a player, as a supporter, or just an overall fan of the sport, he's super right. So
Absolutely. That's a
want to
great shout.
acknowledge where
Great
Arsenal is
shout.
right now, where United is right now, where everybody is right now, and just super thankful for that, first of all. But as far as the game goes, it's tough because myself, and I'm sure many others, kind of guard themselves in situations like this, especially before the game, to avoid disappointment, knowing that United doesn't need a lot to create a good chance on goal. But I think we flat out dominated in the second half, and all of the top stats pointed our way. Looking at the game as a whole, 57% possession, which isn't one of our
That's
higher
surprising
end
to me, though.
possessions of a game, which is
Yeah,
kind of
that's
crazy, I know. But expected goals, 3.25 to United's 0.36. Outshot 25-6, nearly doubled United's passing in the offensive half. And one of the biggest ones, 63 touches in the opposition's box, which is a crazy stat. I think that's the highest in the Prem this year. We are so fun to watch, man. And just, we're a serious football club, and I think it goes beyond the eye test and playing beautiful football, but we have the stats to back it up. And now that Nketiah is probably the best striker in the Prem, I think that this is going to be an interesting rest of the season. But I'm so happy with how we played, and I'll let you guys speak a little bit before I dive into a couple guys I want to shout out.
Yeah, I mean, at least for me, being somebody that has absolutely no say on the game, it was easily one of the more interesting games that I've seen in the last 3, 4, 5 years. At least for me, the way that Zinchenko can play and move, and Odegaard can move. I mean, it's a different game whenever those two have the ball. Xhaka, I mean, all three of those guys can kind of move and play whatever position they need to, and I mean, Arsenal's so good, United's so good. It was an awesome game.
Yeah, it was good. I want to speak on Arsenal for a second. I think that game was an instant classic. I think that so far might be, the game of the season that we've seen just from a excitement standpoint. I said it immediately after the game, but as days have passed, I believe it more and more. I think that at the end of the season, if Arsenal go on to do it, I think they'll look back to games like this, winning in the 90th minute, regardless of what the game looked like prior to that. It's a mentality thing. Like, there are so many times when you get to that 90th minute and teams just kind of shrink into themselves. To speak candidly about United, like, we came out in the second half defensively. It seems like we tried to just play for a tie for the entire second half. We weren't doing a whole lot to try to get offensive chances, and Arsenal never backed down. So I think that it's a huge mentality win for Arsenal. On the United side of things, man, we miss Casemiro. It's weird. It wasn't an injury that kept him out. It was a suspension, but Dobes has been saying for 5 weeks now that we're a Casemiro injury away from just imploding, and I think that that's the case when you looked at it. If anything, I'll be a little bit critical of Ten Hag for not making some subs earlier, but then you look at the bench and you say who is there to even bring on. Right when the goal was in the build-up play, I could see it coming from a mile away. McTominay got dragged so far out of the middle.
Shocking.
He
Yeah.
lunged for a ball that he had no business lunging for, and then just kind of like stayed on the ground. And instead of tracking back, you just see it coming, and it's tough when you just rely on the same 11 guys to get it done every single week, and you don't have any depth. I won't go into the Glazers. I won't go into the transfers of United, but it just shows on games like this that, Arsenal's bringing off Trossard, who's Premier League proven and is like a rotation player for them, but starter for Brighton and lighting up the league. And we don't have anyone like that. So credits to Arsenal. It was a heartbreaker.
I think part of it too is not having Casemiro on the lineup and you guys don't get 4 or 5 scored on you. I think realistically is like something to be at least a little bit confident about, and knowing that the rest of the team is picking up, not playing
100%.
Maguire in certain instances is always awesome. But having Fred as your late minute, sub on is fucking tough. Like,
Yeah,
just realistically.
brutal.
Winks, I want to let you give some flowers to your Arsenal boys because I have a feeling my rant will be. I'm going to give some flowers, but I want to let you give the credit before I give the credit to some Arsenal players. I'll let you go, and then I can kind of take it from there.
I appreciate that. I feel like we've talked about him in every pod, so far as being pleasantly surprising, but shouts to Eddie and Ketia bagging 2 goals, one of them being the late winner in the 90th minute. Boy, was that close to Zinchenko being offsides there. But, last time we played you guys, similar situation. When you guys played City, similar situation. So, like, it's one of those things that people are always going to argue, like, if this had gone differently or this had gone differently, the positions in the league wouldn't be the same. But at the end of the day, it's like, who takes advantage of the situations when they're leaked their way, good, bad, or otherwise. So I'm happy that we're taking advantage of those right now. Eddie's playing out of his mind. He's so fun. He's been so fun to watch the last couple weeks, 3-4 weeks. Odegaard, I didn't think it was his best game, but I think that it's part of Ten Hag's plan to contain him a little bit more. So we didn't see a whole lot from him. Saka is just consistently very, very good, fun to watch. What a goal he had, man! I was sitting next to Henry and our buddy John and Butch at Amsterdam, and like I didn't cheer for like the first minute after he scored because I just had my jaw on the floor. I like couldn't believe it. That was an insane shot.
What a moment for it too. Like of all times for that. I mean, terrible defending by Eriksson, but that goes without saying. That was an unbelievable finish in that moment.
Unreal. Far post, low, perfect. But yeah, and then doing the Rashford celebration after, I thought was funny. But like, if you know anything about Saka and Rashford, like they're fucking boys. They are boys. So I think that was both a little jab at his boy, but also like, shows kind of the brotherhood that they have if you know anything about him behind the scenes. Main guy I want to shout out during this game is Zinchenko. I think that's pretty obvious with my background. I don't think we can win that game without him. I wouldn't trade him for anyone right now. I don't think Cancelo can do what he does right now, but he's probably the closest thing to being able to move across the field like he does. And man, is it so fun to watch him move. His heat map during that game was just incredible. And I think that rarely, and I'm surprised, but rarely did we have to see him track back super fast and take anyone on 1v1 besides Anthony a few times. And Zinni has an easy time there with him. I think that he's pretty one-dimensional. But the one time that United did get in behind Zinchenko on that space, Party decided to just turn on the nitrous.
Unreal. I was like, who is that guy?
Usain Bolt real quick.
I don't know if you remember, there was a video of Varane 4 years ago doing that for Real Madrid where he made up like 40 yards in the span of 2 seconds, and it was the same thing. It was crazy.
And that reminded me purely of like a FIFA moment where like somehow these defenders can catch up to strikers that on paper have insane pace. Whatever the case might be, that was a great defensive effort from Party there. But I think Zinchenko was pure class. And, listening more to that same post-game interview, the reporter was asking him about like when he first got to Arsenal versus where they are now. And he kind of said that when he first got to Arsenal and was really able to start talking to guys in the dressing room, he said, guys, don't forget top 3 or whatever. We need to think about the title. And some of them, I guess, were supposedly laughing, but he said that now in the locker room, nobody's laughing now and all of them are dreaming. And obviously there's a lot of games to play. We see that United's back. City, as always, is there, but he really stressed to the boys, like, take it step by step. And I think that that's something that I've tried to say every single episode about these games that we have coming up. Like, it's so important to not look too far ahead at the goal, but take it one game at a time. So super pleased with everybody's effort yesterday.
I can kind of piggyback on that, I guess, a little bit. I mean, to start, I mean, before the game, I kind of texted you guys right before that, like, based off the lineups, like, Arsenal should have won that game. Now, did I expect United to keep it that close? Not necessarily. I think that's why it hurt so much we did lose. Like, from the Arsenal perspective, when I always say the Prem is back at its best, for those of you who know your Prem history a little bit, like for almost a decade, it was like Arsenal and United was the biggest rivalry in the Prem. Like they were winning the league, we were winning the league, they were winning the
Fighting
league,
for trebles, not Europa League.
And so, like the United Arsenal rivalry, you could just almost feel sort of the difference of it coming back a little bit. I mean, Emirates on Sunday wasn't how Emirates had been in, like, I can't even tell you how long. I mean, then you break down the game a little bit, and like with Nketiah, the 2 goals to score, brilliant header. Like Zinchenko was absolutely everywhere. I don't know if you guys know this. I saw this stat today. And if any player that's currently playing in the Prem, he has the highest current win percentage.
Wow.
Like, that's insane.
Goes from a winning City side to then a winning Arsenal side.
Yeah, but just shows you the personality he brings.
Yeah.
And then you go to like a soccer
and his impact.
Exactly, absolute wonder kid, like with a wonder strike. Like Thomas Partey was consistent. I mean, as much as I want to like rag on him, he's a consistent player. Then you go to Ramsdale, like that Ramsdale save that on Rashford, like allows Arsenal to score that winner. And like for me, my favorite player to watch for Arsenal is Odegaard.
Yeah.
Like he's my player of the season. That in and out touch that he had into Xhaka, like if they would have scored off that, oh my fucking god!
Henry and I looked at each other and we are like, "What did he just do?"
Yeah,
That
it was like an elastico,
That
but
was absolutely gross.
I'm
So like
happy you brought him up because I was waiting for someone to give him cheers.
All in all, very deserved win by Arsenal against like a very much of a B side for United. No Cassie, no Delo, no Sancho, no Martial. Like some guys that are extremely important to the way that we play. So like if you ask me like before the game,
Sancho's in your starting lineup?
Absolutely. When he's fully healthy, he was better in his prime than Jude is now. Like, so like I think like when you break down the game from a United perspective, it's very tough to be upset in terms of what we had on the field. I was super proud of the guys' effort. Ten Hag had us set up absolutely perfect in the first half. Kind of like Wink said, you'd expect United to have like 30% possession against the Arsenal team who always keeps possession. In the first half, it was 50-50. I think the difference in this game came from our ability to not bring anybody into the game. Jake just said it. Winks just said it. I said it early in the year. That's exactly why I don't think we're title contenders, because the moment we go from Cassie to McTominay, who shouldn't start in any top 6 club side, that's all you need to know right there. I don't know if you guys saw, I think from my perspective, it's like, not mad with the result, but you can see the progress. I don't know if you guys saw Thierry Henry's quote that came out today, what he said about the game. And it's kind of my exact United perspective. So here's what he said. He said, I'm happy that Arsenal won. They deserve to win after their performance in the second half, but boy, Man United looked completely different under Ten Hag. I will be honest, I'm a big fan of Ten Hag, and I like him very much. He's a coach I recommended to Laporta after Koeman got sacked for Barca. He's a genius. Today we saw a team with three years to develop against a team with 6 months to develop. Also a team with 1 week of rest against a team with 2 days of rest. Still, Man United went toe-to-toe, which is surprising. I thought Arsenal would be all over Man United from the kickoff, and United players will sit back, but I was wrong. United, in fact, had better control of the ball in the first half. Give 1 more year to Ten Hag and back him in the market. United will be a force to reckon with. No disrespect to Sir Alex, but Ten Hag gets it right at United. They will play more attractive football than they ever played under Sir Alex. And I think that exactly right there is the reason that I just take it with the ebbs and flows. Like Henry and I have receipts from 2021 saying we wanted Ten Hag. Like 2021, we pulled them up saying we wanted Ten Hag. And unlike other Arsenal fans who 6 months into his journey wanted him gone, like we're sitting here backing Ten Hag. And I think that once he gets the players that he needs, you can already see what he's brought to the side. So that's why like it's very tough. It only hurts because we're in the game. Like 90th minute winner is why it hurts so fucking bad. But at the same time, the progress is there. A fully healthy or even a Casemiro, I truthfully believe we win that game. But like you have to say, all credit to fucking Arsenal. Like that 90th minute winner is what you see title winning teams do.
Yep.
But at the same time, like fully healthy, I think United pulls that out a little bit.
Sheesh.
So fun.
I know. I was gonna say, before we get into all the other games of the weekend, I did want to note on some other teams to mention that aren't represented here. West Ham Everton game. West Ham beat Everton 2-0, and Mr. Frankie Lampard got sacked.
See ya.
So,
Not one time, for the second time.
For the second time.
Hell yeah.
I mean, not as good of a coach as he was a player. But hey, rest in peace, Frankie Lampard. Not
Head to the
I saw-
championship, probably.
I saw, Bielsa's going to take him to the championship. That's what I've been seeing.
That'd be great.
another.
That's an interesting character to pick
Arsenal,
up. I think
Arsenal will
it fits
get
Everton
Everton
right
now on the new manager bounce. So that may play a little effect there. I don't know. I don't want to get
Have
too
they
ahead of
announced a
myself.
manager, or is it just an interim?
Leighton Baines, I think, and somebody
Shut
else.
up.
Legend.
Are
An
like
absolute ledge.
They're like co-managing Everton until.
Oh,
get
they're
a
beating.
replacement.
They're beating Arsenal.
Legend.
I used
Leighton
to call Sean
Baines.
Hughes Leighton Baines.
Oh, I
back in
did
the
too.
day.
I would scream it every time he would get
Yeah,
a
bro.
left-footed cross in. Another game I wanted to mention was yesterday, City versus Wolves. Haaland with another hat trick. I mean, what can we
Tap-ins.
say? 25 goals
Doesn't
at
matter
the
a ton.
halfway point is kind of crazy in my opinion. No matter.
I think at the end of the game, I think Winks pulled it up. I think he had 6 touches.
Yeah, he hardly touched the
goals?
ball. I watched the first half, and he did not touch the ball unless he was scoring.
He doesn't
It's
have
gross.
to.
Absurd.
It's
Yeah.
a gross statistic. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Absolutely absurd.
I would like to double down on the fact that doesn't happen on 90% of the teams in the world. So
Yeah.
But the
But
two goals he scored
Maybe
for
go
the
a
off,
hat
higher
trick.
percentage.
The two goals he scored for the hat trick were a pen and something that anybody in this group or in this message right now could score.
Right.
Like literally, it was like right outside the 6-yard box, and the goalie was not in the goal.
Yeah, he said seek.
Hey, still bagging goals though.
What is it? 24 now, which is more than the team of
25.
Chelsea.
25.
25.
More than Chelsea as a team, which
Yeah.
is crazy. All of the offensive talent, but one guy has more.
He's
goals.
got more goals than
Absolutely. All the
what was it? 7
Yeah, I was gonna
Premier
say
League
it's
teams
I think
have
so.
it?
it's a
at
lot of
least.
teams.
gross.
Sonny,
Not close.
Sonny won the Golden
Not far
Boot.
from United.
Sonny won the Golden Boot last year with 21. Shared it with Salah. That was the end of the season. That was over.
And now we're halfway.
Yeah.
What did Newcastle do? Did
I was gonna say, Newcastle tied 0-0 to Crystal Palace, so that's a good result for
Good.
us.
I wanna shout my man Chris Richards.
Yeah.
Yeah, have to.
Dude,
Have to.
they played so since I mean did he play? Did we have the Palace United game since the last?
yeah.
No, we haven't. We haven't talked about
Yeah.
it.
So I think you guys can dive in on your Man United situation, but he came in first start in the Premier League for Crystal Palace against the surging United. Like this is the best way you could put it. He was nails. He was confident. He was money in the air. Never was out of position. Made an absurd 40-yard, catch up to Anthony with a sliding tackle in the box to get out for a corner. Like the stadium was going nuts. I was like, put that in my veins, bro. And then he does it
He's been
again.
incredible.
He does it again to Newcastle, and Newcastle's super 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 disciplined, and they're I think Palace had a chance or two to win that game, but Newcastle's defense is insane, and for Palace to go toe to toe with them and Chris Richards starting again, there's a lot to be said about that. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, we can put like a little watch out there, and we don't need to double down on it right now, but we can just put a watch report for the rest of the season. Mark Gahey and Chris Richards as a defensive pair are awesome. They're great. There's so many Prem teams out there that would love them as their starting 2 center backs, and they're going to be sick for a long time. Clip it.
Clip it, chat.
They're sick.
Another game I wanted to mention, another player who's having a good season that I feel like is going unnoticed is Mr. Harry Kane. Tottenham played Fulham today. Finally got some 3 points for your side. Hoover, how'd you feel?
Yeah, it was fine. Harry Kane tied Jimmy Graves' record for all-time leading goal scorer at Spurs, which is pretty insane. Considering he's 29 and definitely, has at least 15 more games with Spurs, so there's a good chance that he gets past that record. But I think that's a Conte win, big time. Like Fulham had a couple chances. I checked the stats. Their XG was like 1.18 or something, and Spurs was 0.9. But like none of it ever really felt threatening. Hugo didn't choke at any point. And then defensively, I'm gonna shout out my man Emerson Royale. Actually looked like a competent footballer today. It's kind of wild. He was comfortable.
He's got
on the
that
ball.
confidence after the City goal.
Dude, he caught himself a goal at City, and everything changed. I can hit on that one too. Like that one. I knew Spurs were gonna lose that game. Like that. That was just kind of how I felt about it. Not coming off a good couple of weeks, but then to go up 2-0 like that and implode in the way that they did was like, dude, just win or just lose outright. Let's go
Easiest
home.
live bet of all time.
Yeah. Oh, it was insane for them to give up those 2 goals. But then Pep, even at the end of his post match presser, was like, he's like, I can't believe we pulled it out. He was like, my team played with zero guts. They just did not show up to play today, and I do think that some of that was true. And then to still lose to them 4-2, it's like that just shows you where we're at here. Like we were kind of the City boogeyman for the last couple of years, and I think they still can be, but you
Yeah.
caught them on a day where, Riyad Mahrez decides that he's actually really, really good at the sport. So it just shows you the class levels, and it's not anything new. It's not like we've got
I
new
do think
revelations here.
the scariest thing besides facing City is like facing City down a goal. Like when they are just going to do nothing but consistently come at you, and then the people they have on the bench to bring off that are just going to keep coming at you. That's like City just reached a different gear. The moment they went down 2-0, it was like, all right, guys, we actually have to play today. Let's fucking go. And you saw it instantly.
And who talked about that? Henry, I think, said like live at halftime or close to it. Like City money line might be City money line live might be the best.
Yeah.
And then they just come out and score 4.
Yeah, I took like City over 1.5 when they were down 2-0, and I was like, yeah, this is easy.
But Spurs 3 points, 3 points off top 4. Our sporting manager might go to jail for a couple months.
I was wondering if you were going to mention that.
Yeah, so Fabio Patrici's the director of football at Spurs, and he was caught up in a lot of scandal with the Juve situation. So they were penalized. What was it, 12 or 13 points?
15 points.
15
Was it 15 or 12? Yeah.
Something like that. They were penalized X amount of points for some shady transfer deals that went through, I guess, without some supervision or without financial fair play regulations in mind. I don't even really know all the details, but Fabio Petrucci is very much so in the middle of all of it. And Daniel Levy said, yeah, let's hire a guy under a current investigation. There's no way that this could go poorly. And it did. So Juve's in the crosshairs as of right now. There's no suspension for him, but if he ever goes back to Italian football, he's got a suspension for 2.5 years. So,
Spursy.
Spursy. Harry Kane said in something or some media outlet that he's open to signing a new contract. That in itself is wild to hear. I do feel that Conte has a better handle on the dressing room than anyone outside of the dressing room understands or can tell, because from Twitter, like I mentioned earlier, it's just bad. Everything's bad. Like everyone's leaving. Conte's leaving. Our director's going to jail. Like Harry Kane's gonna leave. Like it's miserable. But I do think Harry had a comment today in the post game that was like, we had a meeting with the manager, and we're on the same page about everything. Like those guys are still trying to do the same things they've always been doing, and they're still in some competitions that you want to make a run at. So, um, you know, weird days,
One thing
weird days.
one thing I did want to say that you kind of just like went over that I wanted to bring up with like how Dope's talking about the Prem is back and everything. Like you guys are only 3 points off of top 4, and everyone's been saying Spurs are in the mud, Spurs are in the mud, and like who's been depressed with being a Spurs fan lately, but like you're 3 points away from United, like this rising United with Eric Ten Hag with this awesome side. Like you're only 3 points away from them, and we're
Sense
only
some
a
jealousy
point
there.
away from 6. Like I just feel like the difference between the top 4 and our awful teams over here is not as much as we think.
I think we go a little bit week to week in the sense that, you watch how the team plays and how they react and how the
Yes,
media
yes.
reacts. And there's a lot of things that play into that. Like
Absolutely.
Dubs and Hen are off a high horse here about, after the last 4 weeks.
Okay.
So today it was not a good day to be a United fan, Henry. So,
Suck
it
on
ebbs
that.
and flows. It ebbs and flows. Watching Spurs play is miserable, and watching United is really fun.
Yeah.
So there's 3 points that separate that, and I think that's a great perspective to keep. And it's like, we're not gone and out of anything here. I think we've still got a last half untested Newcastle. And you like Dub said, Casemiro's an injury away from being back to pretty, mild United team. So there's a lot to play for, and I'm still very much so in the Spurs should get top 4 conversation. But
Okay.
it just every day we go, man, it looks increasingly more
Spurs
difficult.
Twitter is so much like United, to where it's like you win, you're fucking everybody is jacked up. You can't find a negative comment anywhere. And then when you lose, it's like, holy shit, the world's falling. And I feel like Spurs Twitter might be like the worst with that, at least from what I see. It's like after the City game, it's like a nightmare. And then today,
just-
like,
Yeah,
yeah,
there's just
Spurs
never been
fans are just
anything-
happy with 3 points. Like,
Seriously, like I'm
Yeah.
seeing tweets that are like 3 points, build on this.
Yeah, exactly.
Champions League run, FA Cup run. We're in that top 4 is
Fix one
100%. Yeah, and it's like we beat a really good in their defense away Fulham team. But yeah, man, let's pump brakes. Let's take a wider lens view of the situation, and it's still a mess. But Daniel Levy runs our club, so continue.
Yep. And great transition with another big mess of a club right now with Chelsea. Woo woo woo. Yeah, yeah.
You're like you're getting to the stage, Nick, where you're just like in the self-deprecating stage. You're getting to the joke before anyone else can. It's like
Yep.
the ultimate form of protection.
Absolutely. I'm
Just
protecting
full
myself
on
here.
accepting
Well,
it.
And I wanted to
Now-
save it. I wanted to save it towards the end with Jakey here, our special guest, kind of dive into Chelsea after the weekend. 0-0, boring game. I hope none of you guys woke up for it. I woke up at 6:30 bright and early and watched the entire thing all the way through. It was boring.
The mid-table derby, is that
yeah,
what
I
they were
think-
calling it?
I think Hoover said it like right. Like when I said, "Oh, you're only 3 points off from United," I completely agree with your take on like when you're watching Chelsea play, it's just not fun to watch right now. And when you're watching some of those top clubs play, it's actually decent football. So like I completely understand where you're coming from for that. One thing I will say after the weekend is Mudryk coming on. I thought he was a spark in our team. I'm kind of like Hoover with the park the brakes a little bit on him. I don't want to like say he's the next big thing, but he was definitely a spark in our side. He probably should have scored a goal though. I definitely think it is
honestly.
a plus. But besides
Watching
that,
highlights, he felt like the best player out there for the minutes he got. So
Yeah, he was
I'm
electric.
excited to see. I'm jealous, obviously,
His,
but excited to see him play a full 90.
Yeah, and
his biggest thing is, go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, I think too the biggest thing that I notice is not only like his play and his mentality when he gets into the game, but also what happens around him too. You see guys that are willing to feed him balls that he knows that, and the guys around him know that he's going to get to. Like that's the thing, is it's much different. And then especially like it's a chance loss whenever you have Trent Alexander-Arnold come on your right back position and Mudryk doesn't dummy him at least twice. I think that's a tough scene whenever you're not getting him the ball as much as he needs to, and it'll be a feeling out process getting these new guys in and how they like to take balls and things like that. But um, I think for me, I'm excited. I'm not full high horse on him yet, but it is kind of like the Jow effect, right? He plays for a certain amount of minutes and he brings just a different level of game than anybody else that we've seen for, you know, 18 games or however many it's been, 18, 19, 20.
Do you think that the João Felix situation with like playing his first game, starting the first game, and then getting a red card 47 minutes into the game was like the reason why Mudryk didn't start the game? Do you think that Bowley was like definitely not? Let's get him like 10 minutes, ease into the Premier League, no red cards.
I
I
don't
don't
think
know.
so. I don't think that
I mean-
would go into a decision on whether he's starting or not. I think it had
I
to
mean,
do more with
yeah.
Yeah,
fitness
it's not the.
and
I don't think it's the
stuff
red.
like
I think
that.
it's just the smart for the manager to ease him in.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree
Yeah.
with that. I don't think the red was the reason behind it.
I think-
Well, dig though.
I've got a spin zone a little bit, and I think this will probably start the deeper level into like the Bowley situation and what you guys are trying to do and where the vision's at. But like this isn't supposed to be like super negative. But these two guys have come in, and I think you can look back at some of the wingers and attacking players that Chelsea have brought in. Do you think they come in and have this spark because they're not playing a system that isn't built that way? Like I think João comes in, and we knew that Joao's like he was snuffed out at Atletico. Like he wasn't playing positions, and they weren't playing a style of football that suited him. But he came into Chelsea that at the current moment are playing a little bit that way defensively and trying to find ways out. Do you think that they come in with this whole different perspective of like, give me the ball,
Freedom.
like let's make more space, and it's because of this they are not used to what they've been told to do. They're what they were told to do at their old clubs was get the ball, attack the field, like.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I think that's going to shift quite a bit personally, because what you get is you get guys like Mason and Kai who have been playing so far forward and not in their natural positions necessarily, and giving them a position to take a more cam style position or whatever it might be, and allow these guys, all three guys that especially up front that we've signed in the last month or so, want the ball at their feet. They want to chase down balls, they want to be creative, they want to do different things, and I think getting other guys back is going to be huge too. Alongside of that, like
I
you
also think
think,
there's a pressure as well.
yeah,
There's a pressure on those guys to now perform. Like I know we've spent a lot of money, but like we're in a spot right now where we need results and we need wins, and these big signings need to perform for us. So like when they're coming on, like it's almost like hey, like you're gonna get the ball and we need you to perform. Like that's what's gonna happen.
I think that goes into, and this is by no fault, like Mudryk's fault, but like he's $100 million player,
Yeah,
and whether we think
over
he is or
7
not,
years, and he's 70.
100 million
Still.
is 100 million.
I know.
So
Yeah.
he's gonna
It's an
get
absurd amount of
he's gonna
money.
get
It
the
is. I'm
same
just saying.
critique that Anthony's getting, that Jack Grealish gets, that all these people that have that one before their price tag, they're gonna get. Like I don't agree with it by no means, but like soccer Twitter was already after Mudryk didn't hit the like that left-footed shot, he didn't hit the frame, was 100 million, 100 million, 100 million, 100 million. So that's going to be something that a young kid like that is, to no fault of his own, to no pressure of his own, just like Anthony has to live with.
Yep.
And so I do think, tell me if you guys, this is like kind of on. I think Mudryk reminds me a lot of Garnacho. Like I think both of the ways that those guys play, like Mudryk got the ball and he was so direct. You could see exactly what he wanted to do. He wanted to get at people. Jake, like you said, put them off balance, drive the line. That reminds me exactly of Garnacho, where his first thought is always forward. And that's like, truthfully, I mean, he's the best player of the match for me, but that's exactly who he made me think of as Garnacho.
I guess
I like the comparison, and it's definitely something that I notice as well, is like his first touch moving forward, especially like after weeks of watching Chelsea try to possess it out of the back and hold possession in our midfield when we certainly can. It was nice to see someone like his first touch was going forward, and he was almost pushing it half the time. He was like, I'm going to try and beat all these guys as I'm trying to take them on. So I thought it was brilliant.
You know it's coming every time, and it gets the fans off their feet every single time.
So, Jake, I know that obviously like you've been watching Chelsea for a while and you know just as well as any of us and you listen to the podcast every week and you've heard all of our thoughts on like all the transfers.
Yeah.
Pulling up your squad and Nick, before you even get there, half of your squad is injured. So like we
Yeah.
know that. The majority of them are
We
coming
know
Got it.
that, but you guys like don't understand it. But okay, keep going.
well, the majority of them are coming back next month.
Yes, February,
Yeah.
mid-Feb.
So
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear from you, Jake, and Nick, if you want to chime in on this as well. What's your starting 11?
I think
It's funny, we texted each
realistically,
other.
yeah, we kind
Really?
of,
Okay. Yeah. We'd love to hear it.
So I'm gonna pull up our exact text so that way I can refer back to which ones
This
we
is
said.
tough even to think about.
Baby.
It is tough,
Well-
and I'm really curious on like the front four.
Yeah,
Because-
Yeah.
definitely.
But-
One thing I did want to say that I wanted to say before we get off this Mudryk topic is one thing that
Yeah.
kind of scares me, is with him being so offensive, especially like in that game against Liverpool early on. Cucurella is just awful. He is
Word.
not a good defender. I literally don't think he won a one-on-one defensive battle the entire game. And Lewis Hall, who was playing left mid, had to save his ass multiple times from getting burned. And I'm really
60
nervous
million
if
defender right there.
Cucurella and Mudryk are on the same side. Like, I think he's going to be left on an island. And I am
Him and
praying
Chilwell
that
be
Ben
more-
Chilwell
be more
gets healthy
balanced.
soon.
Yeah,
They'll be
I
more
think,
balanced.
and that's part of my notes too. Is I think the big thing for Lewis Hall is I really liked him as a left back the last couple games. I think he was
Solid.
really
He's
He's
just
very
better than
solid.
Cucurella.
if somebody could teach the kid how to hit the ball towards the net instead of 50 yards away from it, he would probably have at least a goal this year.
Yeah.
Which would bring him in, by the way, to the top 5 in Chelsea scoring.
Yeah.
So
And
Yeah.
before we go into these two lineups, because it's a great question, Henry, I want to ask you guys, who do you think is the player that I kept on and he left out?
Mount.
Ooh. My guess is that you left in Kai and he didn't.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Correct.
For me, my back 5 full healthy is
Which is
Reese.
absurd, by the way. This lineup is absurd.
Yeah. Reese, Fofana, Silva, and Balashile with Chile on the far left side.
Where? Oh wait,
And then-
who's your keeper?
Mendy. I can't,
Okay.
dude. Kepa scares the shit out of me.
Anytime a
I think
ball's
Kepa's
in
here
the
to
box,
stay.
I'm scared, dude.
Anytime the ball's in the air, it scares me.
Yeah.
Great playing the ball. He's been great moving the ball, at least for the most part. But dude, his indecision, you can tell his age a little bit, but he's getting to the point where like he's getting to the age where like you shouldn't have that question for somebody that you're paying that much.
He's 28, bro. He's not.
I know,
old.
that's what I'm
He's
saying,
18.
but he was brought in as a guy that's supposed to be the next guy for a
Yeah.
long
He's just
period of
building
time.
stock for us to sell him. That's all he's doing right now.
Yeah, I think and having Mendy hurt definitely doesn't help that. In the middle, I have Mount and Conte. I think that full healthy, those are still my two guys. I think allowing Mount to control the midfield and then having Conte just as a backup. I mean, I think it's hard to say no to that.
When is Conte back?
I haven't even thought about that guy in forever.
Mid-February.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it looks like mid-February, but some
like, I
reports
keep
say that
hearing
it's going to be
different
the start
dates.
of March. So
Yeah, I was gonna
everything I've
say, I keep
seen is
hearing-
kind of like going around there. He is working out, but he's not working out with the team. So he's doing stuff individually as of right now. So who
Progress.
knows how long that's going to be. Yeah, it's moving in the right direction. And then front 3, I have Madueke, Zhao, and Mudryk. I don't have a specific place for any 3 of them to play as of right now. I think that's allowing them 3 to kind of figure it out. I think, especially with those 3 and Mount, if he's playing correctly, I would give Kai a chance in that spot too, to be quite honest. And then as of today, it looks like Enzo Fernandez is another look. And then on top of that, Casado from Brighton. Like those are the 2 that they've been kind of surrounding a lot, which would be a massive, at least in the
Both of
midfield, right? Especially
of
Casado.
them.
I think plays a Conte type role, very, very defensive heavy, probably one of the best tacklers that I've seen, at least in the midfield and taking balls away, or at least that's available. So
And
he's
the-
listed as not available, but we'll see.
Yeah, and the only difference between my lineup and his is literally I have Kai, Zhao, and Mudryk in my front 3.
And also
So where do
Shalaba.
you?
in
But
the
where
right
do you
side.
play each person? Like, I guess
you say?
We
for
also
your front 3, Nikki. Like, where are you playing each one of them?
I'd probably have Zhao and Mudryk almost like I would play them like a striker and have Kai sit underneath them.
Like both of them play like a striker,
Yeah, like a here and then Kai.
like a
underneath.
triangle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. You know, Mattawaki, who you guys signed, I think is while you have a million wingers, you don't have an out and out right winger. And that's what he is. Like, that is his position. He doesn't play any other position. That's what it is. But granted, he could show up as a right back in 2 weeks. So there's that. But I think when you look at the forwards in particular, if you all aren't doing any business in January to like do some loans, you're going to have a bench full of really unhappy players. And I know that you have Champions League and I know that you have Premier League games, but like a whole bench full of some really unhappy guys. It'll just be an interesting experiment to see what Potter does over the next couple of months.
Yeah, I think so too. It appears that Sterling's going to be back fairly soon as well. And the big thing for me is like I don't see Sterling beating Mudryk out of a spot ever. I don't see him beating Zhao out of a spot ever. And
Nice
then
to
I
come
think,
off the bench though.
yeah, exactly. You know, bring a spark or some energy whenever the time comes. But
Beats McFred in the 80th, right?
yeah,
We were just talking
Beats
about that.
smokes McFred in the 80th.
I still
I don't-
personally think Sterling is dog shit.
Oh yeah,
but,
I mean I agree, but like coming off
that's
the
just
bench,
me.
it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Better than
also
fucking
kind of a cool
Elanga,
shout for
dude.
you Chelsea boys. Like Gabby Slonina, who is like your 18-year-old keeper that you just got from the MLS, just got his first like USA call up. So he's at camp right now,
Yeah.
which is really cool for you all. I know that he hasn't really featured for you all yet, but still pretty cool.
I've
Yeah.
seen some Twitter speculation on why not give the kid a shot here coming up. Like you're talking about him currently at this point, he's the number 2, and that's just not even at his own doing. But you know, kid was kind of a brick wall in Chicago.
Yep.
I think that would be cool to see
So
him
weird
in
to
FA
say.
Cup. Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I do think too. Keeper's one of those positions where, like, you know, like Matt Turner's a blueprint. He is a great keeper. He's a great shot stopper. He's a great, you know, a good getting in the air, those types of things. But you know, the Americans just straight up lack foot skill in the professional game in Europe because it's so more heavily reliant on building out of the back. But I think in like an FA Cup game or something, it'd be really cool to see Gabby, and then you know I think he gets a shot if Mendy's still hurt, if Kepa goes down.
Yep.
That's your guy. Like that's so
Yeah.
interesting to think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
To be fair, I'm not against giving him a shot. Like I mean, what
He's just 18.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you know, at
But
some point
we have so many competitions coming up, an injured goalie, like
It's the best problem to have, though. Like, competition is
Yeah.
what you need. It's just I think the bigger issue than you guys having the guys is having Potter do it in the middle of the season.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I think
the
if you
biggest
do this
issue, in my
preseason,
opinion.
it's another story.
Preseason, it's a different team. All these guys are there. It's a whole different team. I think the thing is Potter trying to do this like in live games and figure out his best 11 and what works and what doesn't work, who to bring in, who to start, like what formation even works best. Because I think all of us watched Brighton under Potter,
Yeah.
and the way they played,
Loved
they
it.
played free flowing football, kept the ball, played beautiful, scored beautiful goals. I think that's what he wants to do at Chelsea, which is why some of the signings are a little bit confusing. But I think if he has the time and he trusts the guys, like they can be very good. It's just can he do it in the middle of the season?
Yeah, I don't have a take on Potter yet. Like I'm not for him or against
it's
him. I'm
unfair
kind of
to
just
give
yeah,
one, really.
exactly. I'm
Yeah.
still kind of
Yeah.
waiting it out. But I did want to mention. I think we kind of talked about the last pod. I'm happy that like I know we talk about all these signings, but like I'm happy we're doing something. Like we could be doing absolutely nothing, sulking in this injury thing and being like, oh, we can wait it out. We're in 10th, but like we're going out and buying people. Like instead of just sitting back and doing nothing. Yeah, are they sometimes outrageous signings and we're signing a lot of them, but it beats doing absolutely nothing and signing no
Yeah.
one. So like,
And
I would
if
take
your
any of the
owners
league.
and if your owners are cool with splashing the cash, like
Exactly.
I'm
And
jealous.
I was
would
reading the only downside is with the contracts being structured over years versus up front, like it makes it a lot harder if any of them flop to get rid of them and justify the contracts. So Boley is betting a lot of money on all of these players that he's spending to pan out.
Yep, and
Yes, he's buying young guys,
I'm
but
hoping
that's the
Potter has
negative
a lot
side
of
to it.
say in it too on
Yeah,
those
well, that's,
younger
I
ones.
mean, you would think, but like that's the only real downside is that it gets to year 4 and Mudryk or some of these guys you sign are shit.
Yeah.
Like you're at a loss when you try to sell them no matter what.
I would give so many amounts of monies to do a Chelsea all or nothing this season to see what's going on behind closed doors. I would pay so much amount of money for
Who
that.
is all or nothing?
I was thinking about that after the United game.
know.
Like, why can't they do an Arsenal season 2 this season?
You never know. They
What
could
a
be,
season
but
2 it would be.
The
Wait, let me know,
Chelsea guys
lads.
just
You
show
know,
up to the
lads, they
locker
could lose to
room.
Norwich.
like it literally might be going to Chelsea. You just think it's been Arsenal, it's been Tottenham.
That's what I thought it was. Like, could it be
it's
us?
been City.
What if?
That would be
It
sick.
definitely won't go to United until the Glazers are gone. Glazers would never do
Allow
that.
it to
But
happen.
if it could be
Seriously, though,
Chelsea
like,
this season, it'd be
all
incredible.
the Chelsea guys just in the locker room, it's like all of a sudden just somebody new shows up, the locker next to him, like 7 days in a row. It's like, hey, nice to meet you, dude. Welcome to the squad.
Yeah.
I think that's a big overlying theme for the year is kind of like changing the guard, right?
Yeah.
Especially like my background in hockey, you look a lot at like the teams that win or that dynasty type team. So you look at the Blackhawks, you look at the Kings, teams like that win multiple in a row, and there has to be a downtime from that. And I think, while we're not in worry of getting relegated by any means, but at some point you have to start fulfilling some of those bodies that are getting old and aren't able to do it. I mean, you look at Conte over the last 2 years has played like 10 games tops. Like that's terrible. Like he's easily a guy that I would put in my lineup, no questions asked if he's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But having guys, I tried to look up a stat of how many games Chelsea's played over the last 4 years comparatively to some other teams. I know it has to be up there comparatively to a lot of teams. So you're putting a ton of play on these guys. You look at guys that are so reliant, especially the year that say we won Champions League, like you're so reliant on James and Chilwell to play a full field game. And I think you see them getting hurt is a big part of that. Like you put so much wear and tear on your body that eventually it just says no more.
We
think
talk
that
about
could
that
be
all
part
the
of it, too.
time. We talk about that all the time on here with how many games and tournaments seem to get added throughout the season. And then on top of that, this year, the World Cup right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Like, at what point does it become
Bullshit.
At what point
Yeah.
does it hurt the sport and become like, when do they revert back to it more being about the players? And I think that's why, for example, not to Americanize it too much, but why the NFL does so well from a money standpoint is, no, they don't have nearly as many games, but like the few games that they do have, like everybody's watching them. And I feel like, and then you go to like baseball where they don't get near the viewership because they have over 180 games in a season, and like soccer is approaching that. Not quite 180, but so many tournaments and so many games. Like, when does it get too diluted? When does it hurt the players? Because obviously the strain on your body in soccer versus baseball is way different. But
100%. That's a great
I think
point.
it's something they need to revisit.
They won't. I mean, not to be the
It's true,
the
yeah.
devil's advocate, but it's just we're talking
I'm
about
not
the
gonna-
the most
I'm not
corrupt
complaining.
sports, federation in world sports, and like
Ever.
that dude, that FIFA documentary on Netflix. I'm going to double down on that. Was from a business standpoint. Like, I'm pretty into the sports side of all this, or the business side of all of it. Is like, that was fascinating. It was political. It was everyone under the sun. It was every federation. I mean, so it's hard to ever, we got out of the UEFA Super League thing really not all that long ago, and the guys
trying to
that
bring
bring
it back,
to
I
that
think.
are still beating the drum. So I'm with you, Winks, 100%. I think that's we're losing a little sight of that, and Qatar is the prime example, but they're
and we
just
won an
gonna
All-Star
keep
game.
adding more. Yeah, they're gonna keep adding more. Like,
I think that, the injuries are always come in football. Like, it's part of it. Every team, it seems like, even without the World Cup, like it happens to some team every single year. So like, it's just like next year, maybe it's been United the last few years. Like, it just happens. Some teams get caught with the injury bug, and that's why you see the best teams always have depth. That's why City's been as good as they have long, because it's not like KDB wasn't out for 4 or 5 months at a span and they still won the league. It's like that's where the depth just comes into play. I mean, this is kind of a good transition into Liverpool a little bit. I mean, I don't know if we want to touch on them with Butchie not here, but like Liverpool's got the injury bug right now. And I think if you kind of break down this Chelsea Liverpool game a little bit, like Chelsea had moments where they actually looked like they had played football before. Liverpool was dog shit from start to finish. And I mean like their center backs were just passing the ball out of bounds, like passing the ball to the other team to where it looked like a team, like a Liverpool team. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm so happy to be saying this, but like that I hadn't seen since like 15 years ago when they were like, I know they're injured, but like Chelsea's injured. You guys actually look like you had some sort of like plan going into the game. Where Liverpool is just terrible.
And I think it goes back to the doing nothing. Like I feel like Liverpool is just doing nothing right now. Yeah, they signed Gakpo, but like that's it, really. Like
We always
Is
knew
this
he was gonna
Klopp's
be
last
out.
year?
Voot.
Is this Klopp's last year? Everything?
it's his
No
7th year.
contract?
He's gone, right? It's always his 7th.
That's the golden number.
Their one with the Fenway Sports Group kind of in limbo for how they're moving forward with the club. Like they're in the exact opposite situation where Chelsea's like, all right, we're gonna go out and buy these guys. Fenway Sports Group's kind of like the Glazers at the moment. Like they're not looking to spend that much money, and with their front four injured, it's like they can't play heavy metal pressing football that Klopp loves, and I really think they haven't found a way to adjust that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good take. Liverpool, the game, and yeah, Chelsea we looked okay, but I just all in all I thought it was just so boring. Like
Well, I mean, it was a boring game. Just if you're trying to pick any positives out of it, it's like
I appreciate
I can't pick any out for Liverpool, dude.
Okay, so the weekend's coming up. I don't know if we wanted to do a little preview in those, or the fixtures coming up.
Probably
Or
wrap, honestly.
okay, we can do that.
You want to do a factor cap? Anybody have one?
I
Jake, or Nikki, you got one?
I was gonna say my factor cap. Holland finishes with 45 goals. Factor cap.
We did one like that already. I don't know if you were on the pod
Oh, sorry.
with whether he
I was gonna
finishes.
say I
over-
said cap.
you
at
listen to the
40, I
pod when
said
you're not
cap at
on?
45.
Jake, like he loves his own voice.
The number just got higher. That's all.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah.
and it's a realistic question. Like that's 5 more than we all said cap to previously, which was 40, which is probably going to get blown out. So
yeah.
I'll
I don't
go.
know if he keeps going games like 3-4 games without scoring and then scoring a hat trick. I think he's going to have to be a little more consistent. As weird as that sounds,
I can do a different factor cap. Odegaard Player of the Year, Premier League Player of the Year.
This is a good one.
Massive fact.
This is a really good one. I
actually-
genuinely. Go ahead. I'm gonna say fact. I was just gonna echo what you were saying. Wayne.
Yeah, so I feel like we've talked about this in the Mecca before. If City win the league, it's Holland.
Yeah,
If Arsenal win the league,
That's exactly
it's Odegaard.
I agree
exactly
with
my
you.
thing.
That was gonna be my only caveat I was gonna add. Like, yeah, you guys
that's
can all
got-
say
that's gotta
fact,
be it.
but Holland is the only other person I could see winning.
I think more than Saka, more than Party, more than Nketiah, more than everybody in that Arsenal team, I think Odegaard is what makes him tick. He's the engine. He's the guy that's creative. He goes both ways. The passion he shows, all of it, and that's exactly why he wears the C.
Yeah, I'll go fact too. I think that he's just been unreal. Yes, we'll give the caveat if City win the league that it'll be Holland, but Odegaard I think just consistently is doing it, and I mean even moments like Winks, you called it out earlier, like that like Elastico pass. It's one moment in the game, and it has us talking for days. Like he just has that kind of aura about him right now, so I think he's got the sauce, and I think that's a lock if they go and win the league. So I'm going fact.
I'd have to agree as well. I have to just do fact. I mean, it seems like every time I tune into an Arsenal game, he's easily the best player on the field and creating chances and being able to control the ball in tough areas. Like there's not a lot of guys that can do that consistently game in and game out, and especially being able to play in such a fluid system where you can go literally for any player up the field. It seems like he's the guy for sure.
Yeah, and I think LJ might have said this in the Mecca, or a little shout out to LJ there. But like Odegaard was like one of those young like superstar talents that
Oh, yeah.
actually is successful. Like I remember when he signed for Real Madrid, all the hype was around him, and like
Can't believe
I
they
was
didn't
like,
keep him.
yeah,
Well,
shocker.
at first, nobody like.
Well, yeah, you know,
they-
it takes
they
a little
sold-
bit.
They
and
sold
then,
him right, exactly. But like a lot of times, like we look at guys like Messi and Ronaldo who were those guys and then have consistently been that since then. So I think he was kind of one of those that it was just delayed a little bit and had to fit in the right system.
all right, we're not comparing them to those two yet. Calm down.
I'm not comparing
Chill
them
your
statistically,
horse.
Nick.
Jesus
Nick,
Christ.
You're in 10th place. Shut up.
Oh, that's the only comeback you got right now.
I'm
that's
specifically
Win a trophy. Win a trophy.
specifically talking about from a young player perspective that signed for a lot of money for a major club. Like they were consistently good, and I'm saying Odegaard was not that. He wasn't getting the minutes, and when he wasn't performing to what that dollar amount was that they signed him at Real Madrid for originally. So like sometimes those guys can still be star players, and this can happen in any team, any system, but they just need the right system to excel. And given the chance, and Arteta gave him that chance, and
Yeah, he bounced for a while, and it wasn't until he was at Sociedad that we were like, oh, he might actually turn into a player.
Yeah.
And then went to Arsenal like on that
On
loan,
loan.
and then you're like, yeah, he's the guy.
Isn't it crazy that the Premier League Player of the Year, or at least we're thinking, is going to be from Norway?
Yeah,
That's insane.
no,
to me.
no. One of the two will be from
Yeah.
Norway. That's even crazier.
Yeah, one of
Yeah.
the two will be from Norway. Like it, yeah. Never would you ever suspect that. Even coming into the season, and never in a million years would I ever suspect it. Holland, but never Odegaard.
Yeah.
It's got to be a fun year to be Norwegian.
has to be.
They need to go to the.
It's a
World Cup
win-win for you.
eventually.
I was gonna say they didn't even play in the World
They
Cup,
need
and
to
they're about
go.
to.
They have to. Have
Yeah.
to.
Alrighty, well, that's a wrap from us, boys. Appreciate the pod. It was a good one. As always, follow us on all of our socials. Spotify. We are now still producing all of our podcasts on Spotify, so listen to us there, and of course on YouTube, wherever you want to listen to it. Cheers, boys.
Shout out Jake
Cheers,
for
fellas.
joining too.
Shout out to
Yeah,
Jake.
Jake.
baby.
Yeah, shout out
Thanks for
Jake.
joining.
Man.
Yeah,
You killed
yeah,
it,
shout
brother.
out
Thank you,
Jake.
fellas. Appreciate it.
All right, lads.